Interesting. Do you work? You told me we work in a post office.
Yes,
you work
that's where I
for the
work.
postal department. Haribol?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, Prabhu. Dandavats.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories.
My first time attending your Sangha.
Are you Acyutananda Prabhu from New York area?
That's where I came into this world, New York.
I think I met you years ago, like in the Freeport Temple.
Yeah, you look very familiar.
I remember I had a very nice conversation with you, like around 2015. Possibly John Mastami.
Could be, yeah. I used to go out there for that festival.
Yeah, because I live in Long Island.
What's your Krishna Chandra?
Yes.
You look so familiar.
Wow. Yes, we definitely met. I'm sure of it.
What did we talk about?
Krishna's
appearance?
I remember you were encouraging me to do something for the movement that I could be helpful to newcomers.
Oh, how nice.
Yes.
I wish somebody would preach to me like that.
Oh, yes. It was a pleasure.
That's actually a nice way to introduce people, help them feel welcomed and needed. How it's wonderful. We need what you have to offer. You know, that makes you kind of feel like connected.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Everyone has some particular talent, some ability, experience that they can help our movement to grow, to expand.
I hope I can put it to good use in the very near future.
So have you done that? What I suggested?
Well, I wanted to. I was sort of in a lurch for a few years. And the beginning of this year, I came back to.
Can you hear me?
Back to my faith.
Can't hear either of you.
So this is my first time attending this program that you have. Gaura Prabhu, where do we start? Where do you take it from here?
I don't think Gaura's here yet.
Yes, he's here.
He is.
It looks like he's frozen. Oh no, he's not frozen.
It seems.
Oh, he's there. Like he's being inattentive.
On mute. His sound. He's not connecting. Let's ask him in the chat what's going on.
Yeah, tell
him.
Hi,
Nanda Buddy.
Hey, Haribol.
But we read from Srila Prabhupada's books. Now we're reading the Nectar of Instruction.
Nectar of Instruction. Upadesh Amrita. Gaura Prabhu, Jeev Jago.
And are you still in New York, Lord Acyutananda?
I am. I've been here since birth, but I spent time in Europe. That's where I joined the movement in Paris, France. So
wow.
I spent about 13 years in Europe especially in France. Also, I went to Geneva to open a temple there in Switzerland, and I went to Tel Aviv to open a temple in Israel.
Oh my God.
So I've been around the block a few times.
I just heard an interview with Yogeshwar.
Oh, yeah, we were there together.
Krishna.
Yeah, I bet you were. And were you with David Wolf, Dear Govinda, in Israel?
I was there long before he came.
Oh.
I had come and left before he arrived.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And Krishna Chandra Prabhu is on Long Island.
Yeah.
It's not far from you.
Do you still live near Freeport, Krishna Chandra Prabhu?
I live in Huntington. Have you heard of it?
Sure. I grew up in Oyster Bay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Jai Acyutananda Prabhu, you made it.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Here he is.
It's
welcome.
because you just kept begging that I show up for.
It's really
I'm just
fun.
a beggar.
You didn't have to get on your knees, Gaura Prabhu. I wanted to come.
I'm so happy to see you. You're such a great support on Facebook, and you're an old friend. And I still remember doing the Harinam shuffle with you at the corner of Dundas and Young in downtown Toronto on Harinam.
I still remember that. I think Kuti Chuck was there too.
Maybe. I know once you pick up the mridanga and start chanting, People lose control. They can't stand still.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember going to a Sunday program and I didn't have the mridanga. I wasn't carrying it. And devotee said to me, I didn't recognize you without your mridanga. Yes, it was practically a part of me.
It still is. It still is.
Yeah.
Someone was asking me, actually it was Mira, the periodontist, because allegedly now Harinam Ruchi, because of the demons, you know, she's the jabbers, jabbing demons. They can't come back to New York. So she's looking for another Harinam party. I said, sometimes you go out. Do you still go out?
Do I go out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went out last Saturday to Brighton Beach.
Okay.
And there's a fellow who's a devotee. I think he's actually initiated devotee, Russian fellow, who owns a bookstore right on the corner of Brighton Avenue and 5th Street. Wow. And devotees have a program upstairs in his bookstore. And
nice.
We do Harinam outside in front for 1 hour before they have their class there.
Wow.
So they invited me to come for that 1 hour kirtan.
Mm.
So I'll tell Mira to contact you then, since she's looking for Harinam Prabhus to go out with.
Okay.
That would be great. So I counted, so today is the auspicious occasion. My obeisances to everyone first to begin with, including you. Panchakalpa to all of you. Yeah, so tonight's, you know, I was driving back from doing a little shopping at some health food places yesterday, and I noticed this big luminant moon in the sky as I was driving home, and I was thinking how beautiful that is. And I'd forgotten that today is Sharad Purnima, the day that Krishna does the Rasa Leela dance. So what I've done is I've opened up the Krishna book, and to that chapter of Sharad Purnima. If anyone's not, actually, this is what I'd like to propose to all of you for this Kartik month, which begins today, that every night we read about Krishna's Damodarastika pastimes and or Kartik, and I'd like to begin with Damodarastika prayers, and since Acyutananda Prabhu was singing it while I was still chewing bubblegum or whatever I was doing, listening to Beatles songs, I would like him to lead the Damodarastika prayer, which I'll pull up in a second. There's 42 chapters in this Damodarastika, in this Sharad Purnima, the Rasa Leela dance of Krishna in Krishna book. So I figured out that comes out to about reading 14 chapters per half hour. If we want to
chapters, you mean paragraphs?
Paragraphs, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little anxious right now because time's a wasting. So anyway, I'll get to that. And I just thought, why don't we do lots more reading and maybe save some commentary for later? Is that agreeable to everyone? Yeah?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I'll just find the Damodarastika song here and pull it up on the screen. Where do we have it? There you go.
I'm going to get my cartels.
and I think don't we have to mute
and my harmonium.
Other people
and I have a mridanga too.
But I don't think it works if everybody sings on I think it will sound very bad.
Yeah, so
right?
why don't we listen to unless we can all time ourselves together, it really requires a good ear for us to respond in the same way and not mess it up. It's possible.
I mean, even if it's one person and then one person respond and then we others mute. I don't mind muting, but we can try what works.
Okay.
We'll try and see what works.
Here's the song. Can everyone see the lyrics? Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to get my cartels.
And according to the author, Sri Satyavrata Muni, I'm not sure who Sri Satyavrata Muni is. He says that this 8-shloka prayer is sung morning and evening during the month of Damodar. So if we didn't do it this morning, at least we can get it in this evening. And my friend Tridandi Swami, he's doing a Vraj Mandala Parikram some kind of virtual Vrajmandala Parikram. Have you attended it, Rasangi? Have you attended it?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
But we're also in evening class, we're reading the whole Vrajmandala Parikram book by Srila Narayan Maharaj every day. So
Where?
we're doing it Manasa on my 8 o'clock. It's an 8 o'clock conference call that we do every day.
8 a.m.
But that's too late. No, 8 at night. It's too late for you.
That'd be 11 o'clock for us on the East Coast.
And I heard Praying Prayojan this morning. There's lots on the internet. It's really nectar.
It's a matter
so
of finding the right time. Yeah, it's not easy to always be on the same time frame.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. Acyutananda Prabhu. Can everyone see the lyrics? Okay. Should be big enough. I can try to follow you on the harmonium. Let's see if it works.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay. Namam Visvaram Satchit Anandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Rajamanam Namam Visvaram Satchit.
Just do it one time, one line each, okay, Prabhu? Otherwise, it'll be really long because we can't respond with you. We can't respond to you. It'll be all messed up.
So I'll can you hear me
do
chanting?
It unison. You do it unison. Yeah, do it unison, just by yourself, one time through everything.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's okay. I need direction. Yashoda Biolukaladhavamanam Param Rishtam Atyan Tato Drutya Gopya Udantam Murnetra Yugmam Rijantam Karam Bhoja Jugmena Satanka Netram Ruho Shasakam Patrire Kanka Kanta Sita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Badham Triksvalila Bir Ananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Akyapayantam Adiyeshita Geshu Bhakarchitatam Punat Prematastam Shutavritti Vandhe Param Deva Moksham Namokshavahimva Nachanyam Praneham Varisharapiha Idam Teva Purnata Gopala Balam Sarame Manasya Virastam Kemanyai Idam Te Mukambojam Atyanta Nilayar. Wait a second. Tam Kuntalaishnikarakshaischa Gopya Ruhoschumbitam Bimbarakshadharame Manasya Virastam Alam Lakshalabai Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabodhuka Chalabhimagam Kripa drishti vishyati dinambatanu Grihane shamam akyam vidyakshi drishyam Kuberatmato bada murtyai vyadvad Jaya mochito bhakti bhajo krito cha Tata prema bhaktim swakame priyacha Mokshe graho mesti namodareha Namaste stu damne sporadipti damne Pratiho darayata vishvasya damne Namo radhikaya tadiya priyaya Namo Nanto Vilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namam Iswaram Satchir Ananda Rupam Vastat Kundalam Gokule Rajamanam Yashoda Biolu Kaladavamanam Param Rishtam Atyan Tato Drutya Gopya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much. Was the harmonium in sync with you, or did it all sound weird?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay. Did anyone else hear Krishna Chandra, Nandapatni? Was it synced together, the harmonium and the voice, or did it?
Didn't really hear the harmonium.
Okay. Yes.
I didn't hear the harmonium either, but I didn't get any indication that anything was
Okay.
out of sync either.
I was playing softly just in case I was out of whack. Okay. Let's go back to the translation here. Share the page again. Welcome, Shraddha Sindhu, all the way from Malaysia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Glad you could come. Glad you could come.
Mataji.
Yeah. She's come all the way from Malaysia just to join us. Wow. Okay.
We have devotees from all over the world here.
Okay, so let's see what order we have. Okay, so it's me first. I'm just looking at the order and how we're lining up here on the page. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokul, who I don't know if it should be there, who, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from a swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her, who ran after him with greater speed. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Krishna Chandra, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Seeing the whipping stick in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To this Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes, but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances.
Lochanananda, Prabhu, and then Nandapatni.
Yeah. I have the songbooks. I have a slightly different translation.
Do you have the old songbook?
It's a new songbook.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
a new format.
I find that the old translation flows more than whatever they did, but go ahead.
Okay, so this is verse 3. With these super excellent childhood pastimes, Lord Krishna drowned the residents of Gokul in pools of ecstasy. In this way, he declared to those absorbed in knowledge of his majesty and opulence, I am conquered only by my pure loving devotees. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times.
O Lord, although you're able to give all benedictions, all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of impersonal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon, which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of bhakti. O Lord, I wish that this form of yours as Bal Gopal in Vrindavan may ever be manifest in my heart, for what is the use to me of any other boon besides this?
Shuddha Sindhu, then Rasangi.
O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yasoda, and your lips are reddish like the bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benefictions are of no use to me.
Rasangi? Rasangi? Number 6. Maybe your reception isn't very good, because I noticed your voice was broken up before. Okay, I'll read it. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my obeisances unto you, O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me. By showering your glance of mercy upon me, deliver this poor ignorant fool who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows and become visible to my eyes. Are you working now, Rasangi?
No, that's Bhavatrini. Come on.
Oh, Bhavatrini. Are you on now, Bhavatrini?
Yes, we're on, but we're going to drive.
Okay.
We're going to drive away, and then, so in like 1 minute, we won't have any service.
Okay.
But then we'll have it again in about 5.
Okay.
Or 10.
Krishna Chandra, please continue.
Which sloka, Prabhu? Oh, number 7. Thank you. O Lord Damodar, just as the 2 sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nalakuvara, were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby tied with rope to a wooden grinding mortar, in the same way, please give to me your own prema bhakti. I only long for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation.
Acyutananda Prabhu, last one, number 8.
Because I can't see the
That's fine.
last third of what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the songbook.
Go ahead.
O Lord Damodar, obeisances unto the brilliantly effulgent rope binding your belly. Obeisances unto your belly, the abode of the entire universe. Obeisances unto your dear most beloved Srimati Radharani. And obeisances unto you, O Lord, who display unlimited pastimes.
Shri Damodarastika ki jai. Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the Krishna book.
Oh, right.
Oh, super excellent.
It's the original painting.
Yeah, Prabhupada said it was super excellent.
Did he?
Yeah.
Who painted this? Was it Jadharani, Bhardaraj? Who?
I don't recall. But there were other...
Nirhari, your sister was in charge. Nirhari's sister was in charge of the art department. Would you know Nirhari, who painted this? The original Rasalila painting for Prabhupada? Any idea?
I think
I guess they're busy driving.
They're out of connection for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
okay, anyway, we can always come back to it.
Sure looks like a Jadharani painting to me.
Uh-huh.
But I can't say for sure. But there was another rendition of this scene that Prabhupada disliked. He said they were made to look like hippies. That was his comment. He didn't like that.
I hope it wasn't this one.
No, this was perfect.
I think Driti did one later, didn't she? Driti and Ramdas.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are, the Rasa dance introduction. And who's next to read is Nanda Patni, then Shuddha Sindhu, then Rasangi, if she's able to read, depending on her reception. So,
all right. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's stated the Rasa dance took place on the full moon night of the Sharat season. From the statement of previous chapters, it appears that the festival of Govardhan Puja is performed just after the dark moon night of the month of Kartik, and thereafter the ceremony of Brihatra Dvitya, gosh, don't know what that is, was performed. Then the wrath of Indra was exhibited in the shape of torrents of rain and hailstorm, and Lord Krishna held up Govardhan Hill for 7 days, up until the 9th day of the moon. Thereafter, on the 10th day, the inhabitants of Vrindavan were talking amongst themselves about the wonderful activities of Krishna. And the next day, Ekadashi was observed by Nanda Maharaj. On the next day, Dwadasi, Nanda Maharaj went to take bath in the Ganges and was arrested by the men of Varuna. And then he was released by Lord Krishna. Then Nanda Maharaj, along with his cowherd men, was shown the spiritual sky.
Why don't we read 2 paragraphs each so we do more reading?
In this way, the full moon night of the Sharat season came to an end. The full moon night of Ashvina is called Sharad Purnima. It appears from the statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna had to wait another year for such a moon before enjoying the rasa dance with the gopis. At the age of 7 years, he lived at Govardhan Hill. Therefore, the rasa dance took place during his 8th year.
Shuddha Sindhu, please, 2 paragraphs.
From Vedic literature, it appears that when a theatrical actor dances among many dancing girls, the group dance is called a ras dance. When Krishna saw the full moon night of the Sharat season, he decorated himself with various seasonal flowers, especially the Malika flowers, which are very fragrant. He remembered the gopis' prayers to goddess Katyayani, wherein they prayed for Krishna to be their husband. He thought that the full night of the Sharat season was just suitable for a nice dance. So their desire to have Krishna as their husband would then be fulfilled. The words used in this connection in the Srimad Bhagavatam are Bhagavan Api. This means that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has no desire that needs to be fulfilled because he is always full with 6 opulences. Yet, he wanted to enjoy the company of the gopis. Bhagavan Api signifies that this is not like the ordinary dancing of young boys and young girls. The specific word used in the Srimad Bhagavatam is Yogamayam Upasritaha, which means that this dancing with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. The dancing of young boys and girls within this material world is in the kingdom of Mahamaya, or external energy. The ras dance of Krishna with the gopis is on the platform of Yogamaya. The difference between the platform of Yogamaya and Mahamaya is compared. Prabhu, could you move it up a bit?
Excuse me, 1 second, please.
Is
He went
compare.
out.
I can't see.
He's MIA, missing in action.
Is compare in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to the difference between gold and iron. From the viewpoint of metallurgy, gold and iron are both metals, but the quality is completely different. Similarly, although the Ras dance and Lord Krishna's association with the gopis appear like the ordinary mixing of young boys and girls, the quality is completely different. The difference is appreciated by great Vaishnavas because they can understand the difference between love of Krishna and lust.
Rasangi, are you able to read? Or are you out of reception? We don't hear from her. Okay, I'll take it then. On the Mahamaya platform, dances take place on the basis of sense gratification. But when Krishna called the gopis by sounding his flute, the gopis very hurriedly rushed towards the spot of rasa dance with the transcendental desire of satisfying Krishna. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has explained that lust means sense gratification and love also means sense gratification, but for Krishna. In other words, when activities are enacted on the platform of personal sense gratification, they are called material activities. But when they are enacted for the satisfaction of Krishna, then they are spiritual activities. On any platform of activities, the principle of sense gratification is there, but on the spiritual platform, sense gratification is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Whereas on the material platform, it is for the performer. For example, on the material platform, when a servant serves a master, he is not trying to satisfy the senses of the master, but rather his own senses. The servant would not serve the master if the payment stopped. That means that the servant engages himself in the service of the master just to satisfy his senses. On the spiritual platform, the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead serves Krishna without payment, and he continues his service in all conditions. That is the difference between Krishna consciousness and material consciousness. I'd just like to suggest, as we're flying through these paragraphs so we can complete this chapter, if you have any thoughts that stand out for you, then please do a kind of a shorthand and just make a little note of some comment or question that you'd like to share later, and hopefully there'll be more time for discussion later on. I'll finish my second paragraph. It appears that Krishna enjoyed the rasa dance with the gopis when he was 8 years old. At that time, many of the gopis were married, because in India, especially in those days, girls were married at a very early age. There are even many instances of a girl giving birth to a child at the age of 12. Under the circumstances, all the gopis who wanted to have Krishna as their husband were already married. At the same time, they continued to hope that Krishna would be their husband. Their attitude toward Krishna was that of paramour love. Therefore, the loving affairs of Krishna with the gopis is called parakiya ras. A married man or a wife who desires another wife or husband is called parakiya ras. Well, Krishna Chandra, then Acyutananda.
Actually, Krishna is the husband of everyone because he is the supreme enjoyer. The gopis wanted Krishna to be their husband, but factually, there was no possibility of his marrying all the gopis. But because they had that natural tendency to accept Krishna as their supreme husband, the relationship between the gopis and Krishna is called parakiya ras. This parakiya ras is ever existent in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky where there is no possibility of the inebriety which characterizes parakiya ras in the spiritual world. In the material world, parakiya,
you said in the spiritual world.
I apologize, Prabhu.
Okay.
In the material world. In the material world, parakiya ras is abominable, whereas in the spiritual world, It is present in the super excellent relationship of Krishna and the gopis. There are many other relationships with Krishna: master and servant, friends and friend, parent and son, and lover and beloved. Out of all these rasas, the Parakya ras is considered to be the topmost. This material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. It is just like the reflection of a tree on the bank of a reservoir of water. The topmost part of the tree is seen as the lowest part. Similarly, Parakya ras, when pervertedly reflected in this material world, is abominable. When people therefore imitate the rasa dance of Krishna with the gopis, they simply enjoy the perverted, abominable reflection of the transcendental Parakya ras. There is no possibility of enjoying this transcendental Parakya ras within the material world. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that one should not imitate this Parakya ras, even in dream or imagination. Those who do so drink the most deadly poison.
Wow. Acyutananda Prabhu.
When Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, desired to enjoy the company of the gopis on that full moon night of the Sharat season, exactly at that very moment, the moon, the lord of the stars, appeared in the sky, displaying its most beautiful features. The full moon night of the Sharat season is the most beautiful night in the year. In India, there is a great monument called Taj Mahal in Agra, a city in the Uttar Pradesh province, and the tomb is made of first-class marble stone. During the night of the full moon of the Sharat season, many foreigners go to see the beautiful reflections of the moon on the tomb. Thus, this full moon night is celebrated even today for its beauty. When the full moon rose in the east, it tinged everything with a reddish color. With the rising of the moon, the whole sky appeared smeared by red kumkum. When a husband, long separated from his wife, returns home, he decorates the face of his wife with red kumkum. This long-expected moonrise of the Sharat season was thus smearing the eastern sky.
I think it should have Sindhu's turn, isn't it? Or is it Nandapatni? Nandapatni.
The appearance of the moon increased Krishna's desire to dance with the gopis. The forests were filled with fragrant flowers. The atmosphere was cooling and festive. When Lord Krishna began to blow his flute, the gopis all over Vrindavan became enchanted. Their attraction to the vibration of the flute increased 1,000 times due to the rising full moon, red horizon, the calm and cool atmosphere, and the blossoming flowers. All these gopis were by nature very much attracted to Krishna's beauty. When they heard the vibration of his flute, they became apparently lustful to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Immediately upon hearing the vibration of the flute, they all left their respective engagements and proceeded to the spot where Krishna was standing. While they ran very swiftly, all their earrings swung back and forth. They all rushed towards the place known as Vamsivat. Some of them were engaged in milking cows, but they left their milking business half finished and immediately went to Krishna. One of them had just collected milk and put it in a milk pan on the oven to boil. But she didn't care whether the milk overboiled and spilled. She immediately left to go and see Krishna. Some of them were breastfeeding their small babies, and some were engaged in distributing food to the members of their families. But they left all such engagements and immediately rushed towards the spot where Krishna was playing his flute. Some of them were engaged in serving their husbands, and some were themselves engaged in eating. but neither caring to serve their husbands nor eat, they immediately left. Some of them wanted to decorate their faces with cosmetic ornaments and to dress themselves very nicely before going to Krishna, but unfortunately, they couldn't finish their cosmetic decorations nor put on their dresses in the right way because of their anxiety to meet Krishna immediately. Their faces were decorated hurriedly and were haphazardly finished. Some even put the lower part of their dresses on the upper part of their bodies and the upper part on the lower part. I think you need to scroll, Gora. Yeah.
Did you read 2 paragraphs?
Yeah.
Okay, should have Sindhu?
While all the gopis were hurriedly leaving their respective places, their husbands, brothers, and fathers were all struck with wonder to know where they were going. Being young girls, they were protected either by husbands, elderly brothers, or fathers. All their guardians forbade them to go to Krishna, but they disregarded them. When a person becomes attracted by Krishna and is in full Krishna consciousness, he does not care for any worldly duties, even though very urgent. Krishna consciousness is so powerful that it gives everyone relief from all material activities. Srila Rupa Goswami has written a very nice verse wherein one gopi advises another. My dear friend, if you desire to enjoy the company of material society, friendship, and love, then please do not go to see this smiling boy Govinda, who is standing on the bank of Yamuna and playing his flute, his lips brightened by the beams of the full moonlight. Srila Rupa Goswami indirectly instructs that one who has been captivated by the beautiful smiling face of Krishna has lost all attraction for material enjoyments. This is the test of advancement in Krishna consciousness. A person advancing in Krishna consciousness must lose interest in material activities and personal sense gratification. Could you scroll up? Okay. Some of the gopis were factually detained from going to Krishna by their husbands and were locked up by force within their rooms. Being unable to go to Krishna, they began to meditate upon his transcendental form by closing their eyes. They already had the form of Krishna within their minds. They proved to be the greatest yogis. As is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person who is constantly thinking of Krishna within his heart with faith and love is considered to be the topmost of all yogis. Actually, a yogi concentrates his mind on the form of Lord Vishnu. That is real yoga. Krishna is the original form of all Vishnu tattvas. The gopis could not go to Krishna personally, so they began to meditate on him as perfect yogis.
But Sanghi, are you able to read now? Or are still out of reception?
Yeah, I had a phone call, sorry.
Oh.
I can read now.
Please, thank you.
In the conditioned stage of the living entities, there are 2 kinds of results of fruitive activities. The conditioned living entity who is constantly engaged in sinful activities has suffering as his result, and he who is engaged in pious activities has material enjoyment as a result. In either case, material suffering or material enjoyment, the enjoyer or sufferer is conditioned by material nature. The gopi associates of Krishna who assemble in the place where Krishna is appearing are from different groups. Most of the gopis are eternal companions of Krishna. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavi. In the spiritual world, the associates of Krishna, especially the gopis, are the manifestation of the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. They are expansions of Srimati Radharani. But when Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastimes, within the material world in some of the universes. Not only the eternal associates of Krishna come, but also those who are being promoted to that status from this material world. Wow. They're getting a promotion, and what a promotion that is. The gopis come, the gopis who joined Krishna's pastimes within this material world were coming from the status of ordinary human beings. Oh, yeah. If they had been bound by fruit of action, they were fully freed from the reaction of karma by constant meditation on Krishna. Their severe painful yearnings caused by their not being able to see Krishna freed them from all sinful reactions, and their ecstasy of transcendental love for Krishna in his absence was transcendental to all their reactions of sinful activities. But the gopis who began to meditate, reactions of material pious activities, Wait, I'm going to read that again. Their transcendental love for Krishna in his absence was transcendental to all their reactions of material pious activities. The conditioned soul is subjected to birth and death, either by pious or sinful activities. But the gopis who began to meditate on Krishna transcended both positions and became purified, thus elevated to the status of the gopis already expanded by his pleasure potency. All the gopis who concentrated their minds on Krishna in the spirit of paramour love became fully uncontaminated from all fruitive reactions of material nature. And some of them immediately gave up their material bodies, developed under the three modes of material nature. I just remember reading this before as a young devotee and not understanding it at all. We've been reading it a long time. It's nice when it starts to kind of make a little sense. Sorry.
Maharaj Parikshit heard Shukadev Goswami explain the situation of the gopis who assembled with Krishna in the rasa dance. When he heard that some of the gopis, simply by concentrating on Krishna as their paramour, became freed from all contamination of material birth and death, he said, the gopis did not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They accepted him as a beautiful boy and considered him to be their paramour. So how was it possible for them to get freed from the material condition just by thinking of a paramour? One should consider here that Krishna and ordinary living beings are qualitatively one. The ordinary living beings, being part and parcel of Krishna, are also Brahman, but Krishna is the supreme, Para-Brahman. The question is, if it is possible for the devotee to get free from the material, contaminated stage simply by thinking of Krishna, then why not others who are also thinking of someone? If one is thinking of a husband or son, or if anyone at all is thinking of another living entity, since all living entities are also Brahman, then why are they not all freed from the contaminated stage of material nature? This is a very intelligent question, because the atheists are always imitating Krishna. In these days of Kali Yuga, there are many rascals who think themselves to be as great as Krishna and who cheat people into disbelieving that thinking of them is as good as thinking of Lord Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj, apprehending the dangerous condition of blind followers, of demonic imitators, therefore asked this question, and fortunately, it is recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam to warn innocent people that thinking of an ordinary man and thinking of Krishna are not the same. Actually, even thinking of the demigods cannot compare with thinking of Krishna. It is also warned in the Vaishnava Tantra that one who puts Vishnu, Narayan, or Krishna on the same level of the demigods is called a pashanda, or a rascal. On hearing this question of Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadev Goswami replied, my dear king, your question is already answered, even before this incident. Krishna Chandra Lochanananda after.
Thank you, Prabhu. Because Parikshit Maharaj wanted to clear up the situation, his spiritual master answered him very intelligently. Why are you again asking the same subject matter, which has already been explained to you? Why are you so forgetful? A spiritual master is always in the superior position, so he has the right to chastise his disciple in this way. Shukadev Goswami knew that Parikshit Maharaj asked the question not for his own understanding, but as a warning to the future innocent people who might think others to be equal to Krishna. Shukadev Goswami then reminded Parikshit Maharaj about the salvation of Shishupal. Shishupal was always envious of Krishna, and because of his envy, Krishna killed him. Since Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Shishupal gains salvation simply by seeing him. If an envious person can get salvation simply by concentrating his mind on Krishna, then what to speak of the gopis who are so dear to Krishna and always thinking of him in love? There must be some difference between the enemies and the friends. If Krishna's enemies could get freed from material contamination and become one with the Supreme, then certainly his dear friends like the gopis are freed and with him.
Besides that, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is called Rishikesh. Shukadev Goswami also said that Krishna is Rishikesh, the super soul, whereas an ordinary man is a conditioned soul covered by the material body. Krishna and Krishna's body are the same because he is Rishikesh. Any person making a distinction between Krishna and Krishna's body is fool number one. Krishna is Rishikesh and Adhokshaja. These two particular words have been used by Parikshit Maharaj in this instance. Rishikesh is the super soul, and Adhokshaja is the supreme personality of Godhead, transcendental to the material nature. Just to show favor to the ordinary living entities, out of his causeless mercy, he appears as he is. Unfortunately, foolish persons mistake him to be another ordinary person, and so they become eligible to go to hell. Shukadev Goswami reconfirmed that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, imperishable, immeasurable, and free from all material contamination. Shukadev Goswami continued to inform Maharaj Parikshit that Krishna is not an ordinary person. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, full of all spiritual qualities. He appears in this material world out of his causeless mercy, and whenever he appears as he is without change. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. There the Lord says that he appears in his spiritual potency. He does not appear under the control of this material potency. The material potency is under his control. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the material potency is working under his superintendence. It is also confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that the material potency, known as Durga, is acting just as a shadow which moves with the movement of the substance. The conclusion is that if one somehow or other becomes attached to Krishna or attracted to him, either because of his beauty, quality, opulence, fame, strength, renunciation, or knowledge, or even through lust, anger, or fear, or affection or friendship, then one's salvation and freedom from material contamination is assured.
Nanda Patni, please.
In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, the Lord also states that one who is engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness is very dear to him. A preacher has to face many difficulties in his struggle to preach pure Krishna consciousness. Sometimes he has to suffer bodily injuries. And sometimes he has to meet death also. All this is taken as a great austerity on behalf of Krishna. Krishna therefore has said that such a preacher is very, very dear to him. If Krishna's enemies can expect salvation simply by concentrating their minds on him, then what to speak of persons who are so dear to Krishna? The conclusion should be that the salvation of those who are engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness in the world is guaranteed in all circumstances. But such preachers never care for salvation because, factually, one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, has already achieved salvation. Sukadeva Goswami therefore assured King Parikshit that he should always rest assured that one attracted by Krishna attains liberation from material bondage, because Krishna is the transcendental master of all mystic power. When all the gopis assembled, as described before Krishna, he began to speak to them, welcoming them, as well as discouraging them by word jugglery. Krishna is the supreme speaker. He is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita. He can speak on the highest elevated subjects of philosophy, politics, economics, everything. And he also spoke before the gopis, who were so dear to him. He wanted to enchant them by word jugglery. And thus he began to speak as follows.
O ladies of Vrindavan, Krishna said, you are very fortunate and you are very dear to me. I am very pleased that you have come here, and I hope everything is well in Vrindavan. Now please order me. What can I do for you? What is the purpose of coming here in this dead of night? Kindly take and let me know what I can do for you. The gopis had come to Krishna to enjoy his company, to dance with him, embrace him, and kiss him. And when Krishna began to receive them officially, showing all kinds of ethics, they were surprised. He was treating them as ordinary society women. Therefore, they began to smile among themselves, and they very eagerly listened to Krishna talk in that way. When he saw that they were smiling at him, he said, my dear friends, you must know now that it is the dead of night and the forest is very dangerous. At this time, all the ferocious jungle animals, the tigers, bears, jackals, and wolves are prowling in the forest. Therefore, it is for you, you cannot select a secure place now. Everywhere you go, you will find that all these animals are loitering to find their prey. I think, therefore, that you are taking a great risk in coming here in the dead of night. Please turn back immediately without delay. When he saw that they continued to smile, he said, I very much appreciate your bodily features. All of you have nice, very thin waists. All of the gopis were exquisitely beautiful. They are described by the word Sumadhyayama. The standard of beauty of a woman is said to be Sumadhyayama when the middle portion of the body is slender.
Jivan Mukta Prabhu, welcome. So happy you could make it. Could you please read 2 paragraphs to us?
Can we make a comment every once in a while?
Actually, Rasangi, it's not that I'm trying to stop you, but there were 42 chapters 42 paragraphs to finish this chapter. And I suggested at the beginning, if everyone could just take notes while we're reading so that we could make the comments, that otherwise everything gets broken up. And
then you'll have time at the end to do it, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Not just to read, but we need to talk a little.
Unless you want me to stop the reading right now and we don't do any more reading. I've got about 10, 12 points I want to make myself, but I'm not making them.
That's good. Oh, that's fine. If we'll stop it like 15 minutes earlier, 10 minutes.
Okay, that leaves us only 5 more minutes of reading.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your points.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's read for 5 more minutes. We can always do the rest. You know what? I'd like to not do the Bhagavad Gita classes on Friday night and just focus on Kartik and Krishna Lila. Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
can
I'm okay with
continue this. We can continue this chapter later, but why don't we read for 5 more minutes? Okay. So who is reading? I'm sorry. Who was reading? I can't remember.
Jivan Mukta, did you ask him to read?
Jivan Mukta hasn't read at all. So can you read 2 paragraphs, Jivan Mukta?
Certainly.
Prabhu.
Sure. Thank you. Krishna wanted to impress on them that they were not old enough to take care of themselves. Actually, they required protection. It was not very wise for them to come in the dead of night to Krishna. Krishna also indicated that he was young and that they were young girls. It does not look very well for young girls and boys to remain together in the dead of night. After hearing this advice, the gopi did not seem very happy. Therefore, Krishna began to stress the point in a different way. My dear friends, I can understand that you have left your homes without the permission of your guardians. Therefore, I think your mothers, your fathers, your elderly brothers, or even your sons, and what to speak of your husbands, must be very anxious to find you. As long as you are here, they must be searching in different places, and their minds must be very agitated. So don't tarry. Please go back and make them peaceful.
Thank you, Jivan Mukta Prabhu. Okay, so yeah, we can open things for discussion. Rasangi Prabhu, you had something you wanted to share.
So I just wanted to share that, in that Chaitanya Charan, Amarendra Prabhu, and Madhavananda, who lives in Puri, have been doing these amazing podcasts.
Right.
There's 3 or 4. The one I listened to the other night was, do you know that the Sanskrit can be interpreted in different ways?
Right.
So when Krishna is talking and telling the gopis to go back, it's dangerous. He's talking to Chandravali's group. He's talking to a certain group. But when he's talking to Radhika's group, he's saying it's totally safe and please stay. I just never really heard that before, but these scholars, these Sanskrit scholars, broke down the Sanskrit and showed how there's a different meaning.
Maybe they got that from
in the words. Yeah, somehow. Who?
They must have got
previous acharyas, perhaps. Yeah. I'm just saying it's quite amazing.
Thank you for reminding me of those podcasts. I want to go back. I only saw part 1 with Chaitanya Charan, Amarendra, and Madhavananda. It was jam-packed with nectar, and there's like 2 or 3 other sessions. So I want to go back and listen. Thank you.
The third one is mind-blowing, and they're almost giddy. It's like, and then Madhavananda pulls it all back. That we have to approach this in the right mood, very reverential, although it's so ecstatic. It's unbelievable.
If you can find the link, you can put it in our chat box and others can go in and see if you're able to do that.
In that regard, I would just like to add that as long as it's according to parampara, then that's fine, because even the impersonalists use the fact that Sanskrit could be interpreted in so many ways. What was it that Prabhupada gave the example that they interpreted in something to mean the rear end of a monkey or something? What was it that Krishna is as beautiful as the rear end of a monkey, or some stupid thing like that? And that and that's something that could be, you could use Sanskrit for all types of things. So the impersonalists and the atheists could likewise twist the Sanskrit language to be extremely offensive. And
my husband said
is it authorized? Is it according to the Goswamis, or is it a concoction? That's the only thing.
Do you know who these 3 are, by the way?
As long as they could show that it's according to Shastra, then sure.
Yeah, everything is very, very paka with those 2.
Yes, they're high class.
they're Shastri teachers for ISKCON. By the way, my husband said that it was Madhavacharya's guru.
And he was massaging him.
And he was massaging
him. He was just
him.
a young boy.
And he was a young boy, and he said that.
And Madhavacharya's guru was an impersonalist. Right.
Haribol Raghavendra Prabhu, welcome. Glad to see you.
Oh, that's the story. That's right. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah. Madhavacharya's guru was an impersonalist. And so he started crying. When he said that, he interpreted lotus eyes, actually, as the rear end of a monkey.
Right.
I think the Lord Narayan has, that's how. So
Madhvacharya's disciple,
he cried hot tears because he was also
Madhvacharya's disciple said like that. Krishna's
Madhavacharya's guru, who was an impersonalist, but Madhavacharya was naturally a personalist, right? So when he cried the hot tears, his guru realized he's going to ruin our sampradaya. He's going to try to make it personal instead of personal, and so he actually tried to kill him.
Wow.
No.
He hatched a plot to kill him.
Oh my God.
Somebody told Madhavacharya, and Madhavacharya escaped or something.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Plot thickens.
Yeah.
So very, very encouraged by Acyutananda Prabhu saying that he wanted to hear my points. And I want to share them, but actually I want to hear from Acyutananda Prabhu. I'm eager to share my points, but I want to hear some of his points.
Oh, you've been hearing many of my points on Facebook.
We're talking about Sharat season here.
I would like everyone to go out tonight and look at the moon. I mean,
I was looking at the moon on my way home to get here for this class.
Okay.
And I was thinking, wow, that moon is really full.
Yeah.
And I looked at my Vaishnava calendar, and it showed that yesterday was a full moon, but today is the variant Purnima for New York, Toronto, and so on.
What does that mean, variant? Oh, I see, because of the time zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess for us here, and it didn't look to me like it was perfectly full. So I was kind of confused by that.
Yeah, it's the day after. I think it was over a day ago. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. Yeah.
Prabhupada said it's the most beautiful night of the entire year. Tonight's the night.
Amazing.
Because in Vrindavan, they say that the beauty of it is that it's not too hot, as you know, in Vrindavan, it can be 120, or in the winter, it's absolutely freezing. So this cusp of autumn is just right, quote unquote. And that's why it's so balmy and beautiful. It's not like our autumn in the Western Hemisphere here.
Right.
Which is slightly miserable today. But yeah.
When I was in Vrindavan at this time of year, which I think I just only had once or twice the opportunity, I was amazed to see the yellow, I guess they're kadamba flowers, yellow ones. It was like springtime. To me, it reminded me of springtime in Canada. This time in Vrindavan. Anyway, some of the questions I had was there was a reference to Bratri, Dvitya, and I'm wondering what is if you could look that up, please, Krishna Chandra. Bratri, BRATR DVITYA. It's supposed to be some kind of festival. Before I looked up the Krishna book reading for this tonight, I was going to go to the Bhagavatam itself, but then I thought, not that in any way I would discriminate against Gopi Pranadhana or Hridayananda Maharaj's efforts to look at what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur had to say or Jiva Goswami had to say about this chapter. This chapter is chapter 33, I believe, in the Bhagavatam, and it comes much earlier in the Krishna book just because of the way it's compiled. But I just thought, I think everyone maybe would appreciate going directly to the Krishna book. Not that in any way I want to demean Gopi Pranadhan or Hridayananda Maharaj's work. I found it interesting that Krishna was 8 years old when he was doing the Rasa Leela. That's really cool. I found it really interesting where Prabhupada was saying that women have been known in Vedic culture to give birth at 12 years of age. And I was thinking, wow, in the West, they would think that's really sick and weird, but they don't mind their daughters, having sex at that. I mean, maybe some do mind, but I'm just saying there's so much promiscuity, and that's like, oh, well, these things happen. But having a baby at 12, they would really frown at that. So I was just reflecting on that. I was thinking about how Krishna is criticized by people who don't know Krishna's, how Krishna says himself, avajananti mang muda manusham. What is it? Manusham tanamashritam parambhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me. So I walked into a shop one time owned by, I don't know if it was a Muslim or a Sikh. I was doing store-to-store book distribution in Ottawa. And I said, oh, good day, sir. Hare Krishna. He said, oh, you're with that Playboy Krishna. Oh, yes, he has so many girlfriends. And I just shot at him like an astra. I said, Abajananti Mangmura. And he kind of was shocked. And I said, Krishna says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not understand my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. And I saw he became very respectful after I quoted that Bhagavad Gita verse. So it refers to kumkum. And I'm wondering, does that come from saffron? Thank you.
That was good. That was so good. I love it.
That came out in me. That was the warrior in me that came out, because as we were reading a nectar of instruction the other day, we have the urge of anger, and we have to use that in Krishna's service, not against one another.
Focus, stand and fight.
Yes.
Gaura, I'd like to ask you, Gaura Prabhu,
Yes, sir.
Do marriages take place in India to this day at that early age?
Let's ask our expert, Shikarani. She's from Bihar.
Is she here?
I don't think it's illegal. Yeah, it's illegal now because the age of marriage for girls is 18 and for boys is 21. So if anybody reports it, it will be like they will go to jail for sure.
Wow.
But if it is like maybe in a very remote village, what they do is they just fix the marriage and they wait for them to turn to that age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was hearing that Prabhupada's wife was going crazy because her daughter was already 12 years of age and was not yet spoken for.
Wow.
Yeah. In old age, like I think my grandmother and all, they got married when they were 15, 16.
But that was also my parents, my mom and my aunts who grew up in Italy. My aunt was 12 when she had her first child. It was common then. My mom was 17 and, my grandmother was starting to freak out because she wasn't married. So, it was the culture. It was human culture at that time. What we have now is animal culture. Let's face it. It's so degraded. And it's completely contrary to what even our bodies are dictating to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only, we can say that it's a different world. Yeah, exactly. It is a different world. We train our children differently. We have different expectations for them and for ourselves. It's a very sad situation.
So what was Prabhupada's response to that in the Western world, the culture is different and that women are not to get married at such an early age? Did he make some adjustment to that?
Prabhupada didn't want to. Prabhupada basically presented Krishna culture, and as far from what I could see, he presented to us what the ideal was. He hoped for us. He hoped that we would strive for that cultural ideal, but really left it just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Now you choose what to do. Prabhupada can't force us to do anything. Prabhupada can't force us to chant. He can't force us to follow the regular principles. He can't force us to see the diabolical nature of Western society. He could present all this stuff, but it's up to us. But, we're so attached to, and I'm so attached, to this culture that we've been raised in. It's really hard to see, the real significance of Vedic culture. and specifically because we have, this, the real pandemic, the real epidemic is like this sexual deviance in the form of, especially in the form of pedophilia, and so we see this ideal of youth, of these young marriages, and we immediately consider that to be like a form of pedophilia. But
okay, I would like to say something, if you don't mind. It's not all bad. The purpose, as I understand, was to make a really good astrological match. They would really study and try to make a good couple. And then that would be kind of like a betrothal, but it's not till they come of age that they actually get married. Whereas now, 12-year-olds they're very horny. What do you call it? They're very agitated, and they'll go and they'll, have sex or play around or all of that, even at that young age. But if you have someone who's like your romantic partner, it's kind of like makes sense. And then you just wait. It's a little more wholesome. It's not all bad, but from what I understand, the bastardization of it happened when they were marrying young girls to old men.
But Prabhupada supported that. Prabhupada supported that. Prabhupada gave the example of when he was, in Calcutta, and a 60-year-old man married a very young girl. He didn't speak badly about that. He didn't speak badly about that at all. This is the perverse. This is how we have, our attitude towards marriage has been like these type of social situations has been perverted by Western mores or lack of mores.
But then again, of course,
the objective of the Vedic culture was ultimate, liberation and freedom from this. But it was a different culture, that's for sure. Prabhupada, though, did speak about that situation and did not speak badly about it at all.
But then he did give a guideline that women should marry by age 16,
yes,
and men around age 25. So
and Prabhupada's wife was 11, I think, when he married her. He was 25, something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Then again, there's also the abuse of the women by the mother-in-laws. That's all very well known. That it's not like they're well taken care of. There's been a lot of bastardization of that, and excuse that word, but over dowries, it's become very ugly, and women getting thrown into the ovens. You know what I mean? I guess it's because Kali Yuga.
Yeah. It is Kali Yuga. The whole deterioration is basically the trait of Kali,
And I think like how we see like everything, whether it is like the Varnashram or the caste system in India or the dowry system, everything was started with a good purpose. And the motive was different. The motive was like in old age, people used to think that the man will be the provider. And that's why they used to want that the man should be mature than the woman. And till now, like my parents feel that they used to tell me that you should marry a guy who is like 2 to 3 years elder to you. And I would never agree, because how will I connect with that person if he is more mature than me? That's what I used to think. But now in my life, in my experience, I have realized all men who are my age are less mature than me. So women are, I feel, same age, men and women are more mature. So the exact match, I feel, always happens for a woman with a more mature guy, because if he's more age than you, then he's exactly at your mature level. So it also, like, I feel it is scientifically also true that men of the same age are not that mature as women. So I think, and another reason what I feel is like, being a man who is a provider and the woman is like taken care of, they used to give some dowry to start the marriage life, because so that all the burden is not going to come on the man, because he is going to provide everything. So the female's parents will give some help as a aid. But then people started like taking disadvantage of that, and like just like all other systems, they just tried to like exploit others. But it was actually started with a really good motive.
But Sangi, you had something else you needed to say?
No, just that. I mean, I understand a few years older, but not 60 and 12, please.
Yeah.
Please.
About 80 and 12.
No.
80 and
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the example of what was that sage who changed his body?
That's Surabi Muni, was it?
Subari Muni. I mean, he's in the Bhagavatam, for goodness sakes. There wasn't any criticism that he was old. This is a great sage, and his arrangement was immortalized.
Well, that's
So I'm not saying that, like, we have to realize too that there's a lot of sick people out there.
Subari Muni transitioned into he changed his form into a young man.
Yes. Yeah. But he was still an old man. And, so the concept of an old man marrying a young woman was in the Bhagavatam was not derived.
In the Bhagavatam. It's not in our degraded society. That was in the Bhagavatam.
Acyutananda Prabhu. Acyutananda, did you have a point?
Yeah.
I guess if he can do that, I would marry him. If he could change himself into a young man, okay then.
Don't let your husband hear you say that. Acyutananda, go ahead.
I wish I could change myself back into a young man. But I was at a class Prabhupada was giving, and there were many young ladies, brahmacharinis, in the audience. And he said, in Vedic culture, all women get married. And then he said, all the women here should get married. And then he looked at the brahmacharis and said, all you brahmacharis should remain brahmachari. He said, that is the dilemma. Because if the man is like butter, the woman is like fire. If you put them together, the butter melts and burns. So he was pointing out that there has to be a training in brahmachari life to prepare you for the, could you say, dangers of grihastha life, that you're going to be strong and going to be stable and protective and a provider.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other thoughts that came to me while we were reading is how eager the gopis were to be with Krishna. And I'm thinking, I should have that enthusiasm towards picking up Prabhupada's books because Krishna's there. Prabhupada is there. Another thought came was how husbands were locking down the gopis from going to be with Krishna. I was thinking that's the original lockdown because we've been experiencing a lot of lockdowns in the last couple of years. And they were locking down the gopis. I was thinking the point where Prabhupada was saying everyone's envious of Krishna, think of me. And I was thinking of that verse, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surinam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantam richati, that those who are envious of Krishna, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam, they want to be the enjoyer of all sacrifice. Everything is meant for their enjoyment. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram, and I am controlling the planet. Vaccine passports, I'm going to decide who can go and where they can go and when they can go. And 40 million people are out of a job since this whole thing.
There you go, Gore. You had to bring it back. You had to bring it back to the vaccine, didn't you?
Hey, come on. It's relevant, though. It's relevant, right? Envious of Krishna, Bhoktaram yagyatapasam.
Okay, all right, yeah.
They're controlling. And Suridam Sarvabhutanam, wanting to promote oneself as a great philanthropist in society. That's another manifestation. It was in the purport. Sorry for making it relevant. Prabhupada commented also about the Pashandas, those who equate worship of the demigods with worship of Krishna. And how there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's a few popular kirtan singers today who sing Hare Krishna with Om Namo Shivaya and Om Ganesh Sharanam, and it's all one, and it's all manifestation of, and they chant Jaya Bhagavan, Jaya Bhagavan. They don't even say who that Bhagavan is, but since it's all one. So that's the, That's the second offense to the holy name. And Let's see. Yeah, devotees, a preacher, Prabhupada said, a preacher is willing to undergo difficulties, even meeting death. And I was thinking the horrible attacks on the Bangladesh temples. One devotee named Partha Das, he was murdered. I don't know how many others were murdered, but there were quite a number that got damaged.
Yeah.
And
can I interject there for a second?
please.
I thought what was really beautiful, and I think he used the word about two or three times there, and it's also what Krishna says in the Gita, is that the preacher, who is very dear to the Lord, is assured.
Is assured what? Your voice broke up.
His salvation is assured. And he says that actually, if he's preaching, he's already achieved salvation. So even if he dies in the quote unquote line of duty, he has achieved salvation. So that reading that was actually very consoling in the light of what just happened, because it gives the beautiful perspective of Krishna, how he gives this assurance.
And that these devotees are immortalized, that they died for preaching Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Prabhupada wrote to
assured. Yeah.
Prabhupada wrote to us in Paris, because we were undergoing a lot of austerity and there was a lot of opposition there to the preaching. So, and we were being harassed and actually abused. And we wrote to Prabhupada that this was going on, and his response was that he said the greatest austerity you can perform on Krishna's behalf is to tolerate insult and injury from those who are not Krishna conscious.
Wow.
So it's a form of austerity. Sometimes we have to go through that. It's the fire of ordeal.
I also would like to remember briefly this beautiful devotee who was the first devotee in Russia. And I always think about this because, you know, he was put in a mental hospital.
Ananta Shanti, I think his name was.
Yeah, that's right. And he was abused for years. But now when you see the beauty of the explosion of consciousness in Russia, one thinks about these extraordinary saints.
I was amazed. Sorry.
Acyutananda, I remember reading in Shama Sundar's book about, maybe it was Gurudas's book, how they went to Paris to help because the things were so bad. So they thought if George Harrison comes, he can calm it down because he's so favorable. And then that fiasco happened and they had to escape down the backs, the laundry chutes. Do you remember that?
I don't know. I remember a devotee who was in the laundry room in our temple in Paris.
No, this
he was taking shelter inside one of the industrial dryers, a clothes dryer, to avoid going on Sankirtan.
Anyway, I'll send you the passage from the book about how the devotees in England felt bad and they came to Paris to help try to calm things down because the police were favorable in London and England. And so they went to help. But I'll have to look it up. Anyway, you were there at that time.
That was before me.
Oh, I see.
How could it be before you when you started the French Yatra in 1970 when Tamal Krishna Maharaj and his wife moved into your apartment?
Well, there were some devotees who were living under a bridge. And that was before I invited them to come and stay with me, my apartment. So it was probably during that period of time. And they were also being harassed by the police. I mean, I must have been arrested at least 30 or 40 times.
Wow.
Every time we go on Sankirtan, they pick us up and they take us into the police station. And the chief of police, he would call for me to come and see him. And he said, call the American guy, tell him to come here. I want to see him. And then he would say, tell me more about those stories where they had a war that involved the entire world population and they had these atomic weapons that were controlled by mantras. I want to hear more about that.
Really?
And that was why he was having them arrest us all the time.
Because he wanted to hear from you.
Yeah. He wanted to hear the pastimes.
Yeah, you're immortalized in the books. Those times in Paris are immortalized.
I thought
Thank you,
for
Mataji.
myself, getting arrested 5 or 6 times in the deep south of the States and in Ottawa 5, 6 times for distributing books was a lot. But you got arrested 30 or 40 times.
Oh, yeah. The first time I went out to meet devotees on Harinam Sankirtan, and this was probably in 1969, I went to the meeting place and they weren't there. And I was waiting and waiting and looking around. Then they all came out of the subway. And I said, what were you doing? They said we were hiding from the police. They were coming to arrest us.
Wow. Wow.
So that was going on regularly. They came after me once. I had a new mridanga that had been brought back to France from India by Gopaswami. And I took it out on Harinam and I was playing it. And then the police came, and this was in Pigalle, which is a pretty degraded neighborhood in Paris. And the police came. It was a SWAT team. It was the CRS, is like the special police.
Wow.
And they came running after us, and I was backpedaling, and one of them he had steel-tipped boots on, and trying to kick me. And he kicked the mridanga, and he broke it into 1,000 pieces of clay. Destroyed my mridanga drum. What an offense that was.
And he never paid you for it, right?
I was lucky to get out of there alive. I mean, we had
Thank you for doing this. Acyutananda, have you given your pastimes to Siddhanta? Have you told Siddhanta these pastimes?
Well, they're not my pastimes, but whatever was related to Prabhupada, we spoke together. I spoke for about 5 hours, and he was recording that. So.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
No, but I don't think that pastime was.
No, that's not in there because Prabhupada wasn't involved at that time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other nectar that we don't get.
Yeah.
One of the things that stuck out for me, speaking of dangerous conditions, is when Krishna was trying to warn the gopis, I think you better go home now because there's tigers, jackals, bears, and wolves in Vrindavan. And that reminded me, because if you go there today, I don't think you're going to see a bear. I've never heard of a bear in Vrindavan. Or maybe wolves, I don't know. Tigers, I don't think so. I mean, there's probably dangerous dacoits because you hear of people getting beaten up or murdered. But that's what, so this is the glories of the 6 Goswamis. I don't know, was it all the 6 Goswamis or predominantly Rupa and Sanatan that were sent to excavate? Because Prabhupada said Vrindavan at that time was like a jungle. And they had to clear it all to establish Radhakund and Shamakund and was it all 6 of the 6 Goswamis or just?
Well, in effect, they all did. Even I think it was Lokanath who went first of all, right? Before Rupa.
Oh yes, I heard that Lokanath before them.
And he found his Vinod deity, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Sanatan Goswami who was thinking, because his body was covered with oozing sores, he wanted to commit suicide during the Rath Yatra festival, throw himself under the wheel of the chariot. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that he couldn't do that because he said, I have service for you to do in Vrindavan, excavating the pastimes. Those places of pastimes where Krishna was, and also compiling books about devotional service. And so it was Sanatana and Rupa Goswami. They also went and excavated those places, pastimes.
I just wasn't sure where does Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, and Jiva Goswami, if they were involved in that as well.
Well, they all met at the temple of Jiva Goswami. There's a corridor that goes behind the deities.
Radha Damodar, you're saying?
Yeah, Radha Damodar temple.
Yeah.
And they would sit there and talk about their projects and have prasadam together. And then they would go out and do their service. So everybody was involved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm so grateful I had a chance to go there last year. Jagat, it was a different setting because allegedly Jagat Guru Swami helped to raise money to put a whole big ceiling over top, because I'm used to seeing the sky at Radha Damodar temple, but they've enclosed it all. I can't remember what the reason is. But it kind of smelled like a construction site because it, it was all enclosed. There's a roof over it, and the Goshala is still inside there. And Rupa Goswami's Samadhi has been, as you all know.
I wanted to mention something that's very interesting and amazing to me, that we have had a god sister, Sharadiya. Prabhupada named her Sharadiya, one of the early devotees. And she was married to Vaikuntanath. And she left her body on Sharadiya Ras on this night. Yeah. So her name, same name as the day that she left her body. Sharadiya Ras.
Ragabhumi, you've come all the way from Brazil. Hare Krishna, dear God sister. Do you have any thoughts on anything that was read tonight? We haven't heard a word from you. Oh, you're just listening. You prefer just to listen.
Who is that God sister?
Ragabhumi, she's in the bottom left corner there of my screen. Anyway, I believe, Ragabhumi, you assisted with the translation of Prabhupada's books, did you not? You were with the Spanish BBT?
Not Spanish BBT, Portuguese BBT.
Portuguese BBT.
In Los Angeles, I was doing the proofreading and composition.
Did you know Jagadish?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. Jai Jagadish Prabhu.
Yes. Right. I have a book from him, Ayurveda book. Yes, I never learned how to work on the computer. No, I never have been trained. I learn everything by myself. And we have all the time. We have a marathon in Brazil, so we have to work a lot to send the books to Brazil for the distribution. I love that service because I could hear Prabhupada every day speaking the philosophy. That's how my heart become filled with the faith in Prabhupada in everything until nowadays and forever probably. So I'm very happy to be here among all of you. Yeah, I like that association. It's nice. Thank you so much.
Did you see Srila Prabhupada? Did you ever see Prabhupada?
Yes, I did. But practically,
where was
no one in Brazil saw Prabhupada personally because he's supposed to come to Brazil. He went to, I think, Caracas, Venezuela.
Right, Caracas, right.
And supposed to come to Brazil. I remember that day that I bought everything for Prabhupada, blankets, curtains. I was arranging his room, but he never came. We went out in Sankirtan to collect, and it was the most blissful day of going out. But he never came here. But I was moved to Los Angeles in 1976, in the very beginning, like February. BBT Portuguese was moved to Los Angeles, and Prabhupada came in June. So 76. Yes, I was cleaning his quarters. So I have very much mercy to be there with all his disciples too. I remember Jamuna, Palika, and the Vishaka. I know all of them. And I was so glad to be there. I feel very much protected. And I think it's the most blissful time of my life. I was Rukmini Pujari too. I was dressing the deities, cooking for the deities, clean Prabhupada quarters, and also working in BBT, at BBT, Portuguese BBT, and going out for book distribution and Harinamas every Friday. So I think it's the most beautiful moment. It's I keep here in my heart to be among all of you in Los Angeles and to serve the deities.
Ragabhumi had been married to Paramadwaiti Swami when he was Alanath Prabhu. She comments here that my sister had 16 years old when she married in the movement I think there are other women devotees that married with that age in the movement also. So is your sister also Prabhupada's disciple?
Yes, she is.
What is
Her name is Bhutamata Devidas.
Is she still alive?
Yes, of course, she is alive. She had 4 children. Wow. And now she's a grandmother, but she doesn't look like so old. She's still very young. It's from family like that. And she was married with Mahakala. Mahakala was translating Prabhupada books.
Nice.
But nowadays he is translating Narayana Maharaj books.
Okay. I was just going back to what we were discussing earlier. I don't know if there's actually a Shastra quotation for this, but I've heard over the years that that a father's work is not done until he gets all of his daughters married. So we see a lot of women today, they're not married. Not that I want to go around blaming all the fathers, but I'm just saying it's part of the Vedic culture. You know, how it's sometimes frowned upon if a girl can be childbearing at 12, but yet that responsibility is there. Does anyone have any other comments?
I just wanted to kind of bring a perspective on that again, Western and Eastern. I have some quotes here from Srila Prabhupada.
Sure.
And Bhaktisiddhanta.
Thank you.
This is a direct quote from Bhaktisiddhanta. He said, quote, "The East is captured by the glamour of Western civilization. So Western civilization must be crushed."
Jai.
That's Bhaktisiddhanta. Prabhupada said once he was asked about his disciples being Western, he explained that he said, where's the quote here? Because he never, where is it right here? He says his disciples were born, similarly, although his disciples were born in the West, they are not Western because their behavior is not Western behavior. That is, they do not act according to Western social ideas. Right. At least that was Prabhupada's desire. So here's another, this is direct quote Srila Prabhupada. "Western civilization is a rascal civilization. I do not take that they are civilized men. No, white aborigines, that's all." So Prabhupada, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Like I said, I've got like 600 quotes where Prabhupada is crushing this idea of ISKCON West, you know, this whole ridiculous idea. Like it's one thing to say, let's open up a big net and capture everyone to bring them to real civilization, you know, Vedic civilization. It's another thing to actually be pulled in by the fish. Western civilization, Bhaktisiddhanta, who Prabhupada directly represents in every single way, said Western civilization must be crushed. Prabhupada said it has already failed. Western civilization is something that has proven itself to be a failure and is already failing and will completely disintegrate, he said shortly. So, you know, Prabhupada had nothing good to say about Western civilization. Nothing.
He did one good thing. He said, we will spread our Krishna consciousness, the blind man and the crippled man, American money and Indian culture. So he liked the money from the West.
And another fascinating thing, when you go through some of Prabhupada's letters and some of the things, Prabhupada was directly approaching the Ministry of Culture and Education in India and appealing to them that that his ISKCON movement is a cultural movement. It's not a religion, that this cultural movement should be supported by the Indian government because ISKCON represents the original Indian culture, and that they should be helping him. It's a microcosm of Vedic culture, and that they are obliged to help him reestablish this like jewel of Vedic civilization.
And they are now, fortunately.
What's that?
And they are now. I mean, Narendra Modi has been incredibly honoring of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And it's a huge move forward in India.
I'd like to go back. Sorry for interrupting, Nandapa. I'd like to go back to Krishna West for a moment because Ragabhumi, if you don't mind me making reference to you, she's been living under the influence, or rather trying to avoid the influence of Krishna West in Brazil for many, I don't know how many years now, but she's expressed to me her difficulty in being able to be in full support of that, and sometimes even feeling discouraged going to the temple. She told me how some of the disciples of the Krishna West Acharya came to her and said, "Why are you wearing a sari? The Krishna West is being accepted by the GBC, so you don't have to wear those kind of clothing anymore. You can now dress in Western clothing." I don't know, what were some of your other issues, Ragabhumi? Can you recollect what some of your other concerns were?
Right now, we to the vaccine not let going unless you show them the certificate of the vaccine.
That's another issue. That's a separate issue.
Another one is that we have a very nice temple there with Prabhupada Vyasa.
There means where? Sao Paulo? Where?
Rio de Janeiro.
Rio de Janeiro, yes.
A beautiful Vyasa for Prabhupada. I was responsible during 30 years for the commemoration of Prabhupada appearance and disappearance without any help. And they took out the deities and also Prabhupada. And they placed them in a very small room out to the boutique, the shoppings. And inside the temple became a restaurant and the yoga academy. So things change like that. We don't understand why.
The deity of the Prabhupada Murti of the Rio de Janeiro temple was taken out of the temple room and put into the boutique?
No, they construct a small room upstairs over the boutique.
Oh, and that's supposed to be the new temple room?
A small one. And they change everything, because we have one leader here. They change everything that Prabhupada established. And it's become very difficult for many devotees. First and second.
Were they having gay marriages there?
What?
Gay marriage?
Remarriage?
Gay marriage.
Oh, I don't think so. I never heard about. I think there is. I think Chandramukha Swami, she did some kind of a ceremony of a gay marriage.
Same-sex marriage. Anyway. Yeah. So.
But
anyway,
I had instructions. We are a very Prabhupada disciple, so we have the most beautiful treasury that Prabhupada left for us. But I see around the world so many beautiful temples and beautiful programs, Ratha Yatra, and here is completely different from the other countries.
Mataji, I wanted to ask you something.
Yes.
When you were cleaning Prabhupada's room in Los Angeles, I had been there a couple of years ago and saw Prabhupada in his room, and I gave him a picture that was taken in Paris of the deities that had been recently installed. And when I gave that, and I had it framed in LA. And when I gave it to Prabhupada, he said, he touched it to his head. He said, Radharani is so beautiful. And he pointed on the wall. He said, I'm going to hang this right here in my room. I was wondering if you saw that picture still hanging in his room. Did you recognize it?
No, because I have in my mind the remembrance, just his altar, his desk, and another room where there were a lot of books of Bhaktivedanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I think the place who was chanting japa. And the main room has a desk, and Prabhupada left his bead bag there, and he has japa, the big balls like this size, and a garland flower, and a pitchers of water that he usually changes the water, and a cup. And I remember once Prabhupada, I tried to get in Prabhupada room, but they didn't let us to go there. But I saw Prabhupada smiling while Acyutananda, remember him? He was playing harmonium, and the Jadurana was there too. I have like that kind of, I remember many disciples inside of Prabhupada rooms also talking, laughing. I have all of these remembrance, but I don't remember the pictures. Happily, sorry, but I'd like to hear from you.
Ragabhumi is saying that it wasn't a real marriage to Alanat. The 6 leaders among Hridayananda Maharaj convinced me with philosophical arguments to marry with Alanat, not only to save Sankirtan in Brazil, but because a lot of Lakshmi was coming in and they didn't want to have to ship him back to Germany. So in order to, what is it called? Land him in Brazil, she did that marriage to him, and he preached there in South America for years.
Yeah.
Any further comments? Any further comments from anyone? Sorry.
There are many devotees that probably went through so many difficulties in the movement. So I'm the one, but I'm still alive.
Thank you, Ragabhumi. Lochanananda Prabhu, any final comments from you?
Yes, my final comment is Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you have an amazing voice, and I think you should be an anchor on a Krishna conscious radio program.
I already told him.
Oh, yeah?
I would love that service.
I feel the same way. Yeah,
wow, it's amazing, just amazing.
Yeah,
I can vouch for that because I used to manage the radio station in Utah with Jai Jagadish. And when I first heard you, Krishna Chandra, I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much.
I thought he could read the Krishna books for the children.
I would love that.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything Krishna conscious.
Yeah. Prabhu, everybody wants to engage you in the service of Krishna. It's very nice. It's a blessing.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful, Lochanananda Prabhu, that after months and months of begging you, you finally made your appearance tonight. Does anyone else want Lochanananda Prabhu to return?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Please.
I think I remember you, Lochanananda.
I remember you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, would this have been New York, 1980? Were you there in 1980?
I was there.
Yeah, I think that's it. You know, where Lakshmi Nrsimha and Adi Keshava and Agni Dev.
I think I remember you from it was like a Zoom conference that was held recently by people that were like, who was that devotee in charge of ISKCON Resolve?
Brahmatirtha?
No.
No, that wasn't me.
Raja Bihari?
No.
Raja Bihari. And weren't you involved in that at all?
No, I'm not much of a Zoom person. Gora's got me on this one. Yeah.
We are glad.
Maybe it was New York. I don't remember.
Yeah, but you were in the Mandir there in 1980.
Yes, actually, at the end of 79, 1980.
Yeah.
You were temple president what year?
I was a guest master at that time. I didn't stay very long.
You were temple president when?
In New York, 1985 to 86. It was terrible. It was, I mean,
talk about
it was terrible because everybody left.
Yes.
All the God brothers, they left.
Wow.
And I went through 4 different treasurers, devotees just leaving left and right because we had 2 of the ISKCON gurus who had difficulties, and they left too.
Those are the sad memories.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So Acyutananda Prabhu, he has a lot of deep realizations. He could go on for quite some time enlightening us.
You all come back.
If you have 5 hours.
Especially on the issue of initiation. I'm still trying to understand Acyutananda Prabhu's like what in the ideal ISKCON, what would the process of initiation look like?
Oh, well, it's in a nutshell, we just do exactly what Prabhupada said to do.
Which was
that he said he would recommend some of us, not me, but he said that to the GBC committee. I will recommend some of you to act as officiating acharyas. So take it from there. Enough said, as they say, enough said.
To be continued.
But they didn't. That's not what they wanted to hear. They wanted something else, and what they wanted is what they got. So it became a mess, as you know. It just should have followed Prabhupada's instruction, but I think that he knew that they were not happy with his pronouncement, and he didn't push it. He said, they don't want to hear this. So, why belabor the point? But he said it very clearly. He said, while he was still physically present, that he was appointing Ritvik representatives, and whoever they would initiate would be his disciples while he was still present. And then phase 2 of that Ritvik system was that when he was no longer present in this world, that the Ritvik acharyas, or officiating acharyas to use his term, would be giving diksha, and the people they would initiate, according to the formalities of initiation, would be their disciples, Prabhupada's grand disciples, but Prabhupada would remain the object of worship. He was the pure devotee, Mahabhagavat, the eternal spiritual master, and what he did for us as direct disciples, he can still do for them today, those who get initiated.
Makes sense.
I heard it said that Vyasa pujas are only meant for Mahabhagavats. And I don't have a Shastric quote for that, but I thought, wow, gee, I never thought about that before with all the hundreds of Vyasa pujas that go on every year for my godbrothers. Is that a fact that Vyasa puja is only meant for Mahabhagavats?
Vyasa puja is meant for whoever is representing Vyasadev in our disciplic succession.
So we can have one for you then. You can have one for
you're trying
everyone
to get me
here.
in trouble. You're trying to get me in trouble again. I was banned for 20 years from the temple.
Yeah, I actually because of the Hamsarupa Prabhu becoming the new president of New York, Acyutananda previously had been banned for 20 years by the previous management. I can't believe that.
That's right.
So all glories to Hamsarupa.
Yeah.
Prabhu.
I felt like Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for so many years.
Well, through thick and thin, here we all are. Anyway.
Exactly. So I had to take it as, Krishna's mercy, purification. I have to go through this, and maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel.
And that banning was primarily due to your calling out the previous management because you questioned them on some points and they didn't like that?
There were a couple of things that they were upset about. One was that at that time, if somebody wanted you to initiate them, they could ask you. So I had people asking me, will you initiate me? And I actually did perform initiations back then, 1985. And I gave the name of Krishna Seva to a devotee from Zaire in Africa who was living in the Brooklyn Temple. We spoke French, so he came to me. And the new edition of Bhagavad Gita had come out, and he was looking at it, and he said, they changed this verse in the Gita. I can't believe it. And I said, what verse is that? He said, chapter 2, verse 13, Dehi nosmin yata dehe. And it said originally that one who is a self-realized soul is not bewildered by the change of body. To a sober person, is not bewildered by the change of body. He said, this changes the whole meaning of the verse. And he said, I never want to, so he asked me, can you give me a copy of the original version? And, you know, that got back to the people in charge managing the temples. So that was one thing.
They didn't like that. They didn't like that.
No, he was ready to leave. He said, we've become like everybody else, changing their scriptures.
No, but I'm saying also that the management themselves didn't appreciate that you were facilitating him like this.
Oh, absolutely. They really held that against me for forever.
Because you were going outside their control.
That's right. But let me tell you something very interesting is that Jayadvaita Swami and I are actually friends. And he had written a book called the Kirtan Standards.
Oh, you're proofreading that right now.
And he asked me to edit it for him. 126 pages. And I just finished it last night and sent him all my comments.
Please share some of your realizations on that. I'd love to hear it.
I noted, I wrote down many ideas and comments and corrections and expansions. I thought that the idea of imposing too many restrictions would take away from the spontaneity of the expression of ecstasy that devotees feel in kirtan. And you know, I was just pointing out that we want this to be unifying. We don't want it to be divisive. So there was one song, the Samsara prayers, Gauravastakam prayers, that he said that this is not the Prabhupada song. That was his contention. And I said, I never heard that term before, the Prabhupada song. These are the Samsara prayers. That's how we refer to them. And he said there was a devotee, he didn't name him, but we know who it was, who was objecting that this is meant for Prabhupada and it'll be sung for Prabhupada for the next 5,000 or 10,000 years. And we should never minimize Prabhupada. He's got to be in the center of everybody's realizations and on and on and on. And Jayadvaita Maharaj, being an initiator in ISKCON, is thinking, well, what about the grand disciples of Prabhupada? Don't they have a chance to glorify their spiritual master who has initiated them at some point? And so he's talking about that. And I told him that, you know, if we just start out chanting the Samsara prayers and then chant Prabhupada's pranam mantras, there's no loss, because those disciples who are grand disciples of Prabhupada, if they want to think about their initiating spiritual master during Mangalarti, they can. Nobody's stopping them. But you can't expect all the devotees of all different gurus and grand disciples of Prabhupada that we're going to glorify your guru, who's a god brother, and not a Mahabhagavat devotee from what we can see. So these are the things that we were talking about in his kirtan standards and protocols. But there are a lot of good things too that were not controversial, but good reminders that he put in his book that covered a lot of ground. He had comments from many different devotees, from Ayendra, from Jadharani, from Jamuna, etc. And it'll probably come out pretty soon because it's only 126 pages. He told me he had a deadline.
Either Hari Kesh or Hari Sari quotes how Prabhupada said he was walking and he with Hari Sari, I believe. I can't remember my source, but anyway, Prabhupada's point was why they are just saying Nitai Gaur Haribol. What about the rest of the Panchatattva? Point being, and I meditated on this. I thought, you know, there must be over 100 kirtans by Prabhupada, but not in a single kirtan do you ever hear Prabhupada going Nitai Gaur Haribol. He never, because we can really get into it. Haribol, Haribol, Bol, Bol. And Jaya, you know, Jaya Gora Nitai, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Radha Govinda Radha, and Jaya Jaya Jaya. I remember one of our godbrothers at the end of a kirtan, to make a joke once, he went, Jaya everything, everything, everything.
How about Jaya Nrsingadev? Or Jai Prahlad Maharaj.
Now they say Prahlad Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta like so. And so Jayadvaita Swami's concern was, if Kirtan is already deviating so much now, what to speak in 50 years from now? What's it going to look like? So I'm just wondering, do you have an opinion on that? Because I've heard that Nitai Gaur Hari Bol was brought in from the Gaudiya Math. I'm not blaming Acyutananda Prabhu, but he was an very early Kirtanier, and he formed a lot in our ISKCON. I stopped chanting Nitai Gaur Hari Bol only because I thought, well, gee, Prabhupada never did that, so maybe I shouldn't either. Do you have a view?
I would not hesitate to chant Nitai Gaur Hari Bol at some point in the kirtan. If you have Gaur-Nitai deities, you're chanting the names of those deities. For me, that's okay, but you don't want to overdo it. And that was the point I was trying to get across, that we can't say it's forbidden just because Prabhupada didn't do it.
I see.
If he said not to do it, then it's forbidden, but not because like when you have the Prema Davani, the prayers at the end of a kirtan or artik, that you say, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Then what did Prabhupada say? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
No.
Come on. That's the point. So what do we say? All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Exactly. That's what we say. So Prabhupada would not say all glories to me or to his spiritual master. He didn't say that either.
Right.
So, so what he did, what he allowed, and I'm sure he must have heard that 100 times, know what devotees were chanting. And on certain occasions, like there was a devotee, his name was Prita Putra. He took sannyas. He was a French devotee. And he was saying, Jai Hare Krishna, or Bhaja Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada heard it. And he sent his servant down to tell Prita Putra to come up or to not chant that, to stop chanting. And then Prabhupada instructed him, you don't chant anything before Hare Krishna when you chant the Maha Mantra. And the Panchatattva mantra, you chant that 3 times. You don't just keep going on and on and on.
Another habit some devotees have is they go, oh, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's verboten. That's a concoction.
How do you accommodate the Shikshastaka, which people would use as a line of argument, saying there are no hard and fast rules?
Okay, that's a good one, because I brought that up to him.
Yeah.
And it was mentioned in his book, but I didn't like the way it was explained in his book. And I told him that because it was a quote from sannyasi who's in India, Bhakti Vikas Swami. And he said that there are no hard and fast rules. That applies to those who are beyond rules and regulations on the highest platform, or those who are beginners who don't even know the rules. And so you just want to get them to chanting. And I said, I don't think that's the right explanation. I said, no hard and fast rules means that devotees should be free to experience the ecstasy of chanting in kirtan, and the love that they express for the deities that they worship should not be impeded. And that's what it's meant. You can't say, oh, there's a rule that you can't do that and have tears in your eyes and chant the names of your deities. Come on.
It's against the rules, Prabhu.
Well, it certainly doesn't imply that.
Also, you can't concoct anything that's not bona fide. That's also understood.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, because in the Shikshastaka, it doesn't imply that that's only for Raganuga.
Exactly.
Bhaktas.
Exactly right.
Lord Chaitanya would have said that if that were the case, surely.
Yeah. Prabhupada thought of us also and counted us among pure devotees. He was asked once, how many pure devotees are in your movement? And he asked his servant, how many disciples are in the temple, living in the temples?
Right.
He said, 75, all the different temples. And then Prabhupada said there are 75 pure devotees.
Oh, so wonderful.
You know, and I was just doing some research about compromise and what Prabhupada said. He was talking about he said, how can you compromise if you're dealing with thieves and rogues? And then he said, we never compromise. And then he said, all of my disciples, they never compromise. So it's just a point that we have the acharyas, we have the tradition of our sampradaya, we have Srila Prabhupada's personal example, and most important, we have his personal instructions. And so, you know, we shouldn't compromise in any respect. Just follow, keep it simple. They say keep it simple, stupid, right? No, keep it simple and follow in Prabhupada's footsteps. Very simple program. Main thing is to chant Hare Krishna and to precede that by chanting the names of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, and his associates.
But when Acyutananda Prabhu was attending many sessions with us, he also said, according to Shastra, before we chant even Panchatattva, which we're always supposed to chant before Hare Krishna, is to chant Prabhupada's pranams. And he's noticed that a lot of devotees don't do that. They don't start with Prabhupada's pranams. They've left it out. You might want to add that to the book. You might want to add that to the book.
There was an instance where I went to join the kirtan party with Ram Roy. And I came and they were already chanting. And so he had me sit down. I said, I'm going to chant Prabhupada's prana mantras and Panchatattva Mahamantra 3 times and then chant Hare Krishna. He said, no, we don't do that. I said, what do you mean you don't do that? He said, we don't chant Prabhupada's prana mantras. I said, okay, so I'll chant the Panchatattva mantra 3 times. And then he said, no, you can't do that either. You start chanting Hare Krishna. I said, well, I can't do that either. So I found it so weird. It was weird. It was like one of the great kirtan men who's been going out every day for like 7 years in New York City, which is a tough place.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't let me chant Prabhupada's prana mantras, and I had just arrived on the scene. So maybe they did it earlier in the day, but
right.
You know, if a Prabhupada disciple says, I want to chant Prabhupada's prana mantras, you cannot say, no, take a hike.
Yeah, no.
But that's in there, Prabhupada's prana mantras. It's in there. It's in the book.
Do you think that your editorial remarks will be received?
Well, I got an email today, actually, from Jayadvaita Swami. He said, I really appreciate what you wrote, and it was very helpful. So let's see what happens. You might include something, because I did write some, my own realization about performing kirtan, being a kirtan leader. I mean, I don't lead so much now, but I did lead a kirtan in Brooklyn Temple the day after Ratha Yatra. And it astounded me, the devotees were just in such ecstasy. And, we chanted Prabhupada, and we went to Lord Jagannath was in the temple, and then Radha Govinda, chanting Radha Govinda's, the names of our deities. And devotees were just, they were practically in ecstasy, tears flowing from their eyes like torrents of rain. It was that amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. It used to be like that in New York. Do you remember Acyutananda? Do you remember Vishnu Gadar's?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Vishnu Gadar's a great kirtan man.
Yeah, there were about 200 of us at Mangalati, and he used to lead. And there were several Madangas and, many, many cartels. So those kirtans were unbelievable. And Agni Dev as well.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And Brakeshwara Pandit also.
Well, it was funny because Brakeshwara Pandit, this was maybe about 10 years ago or so, that he was supposed to be the kirtan leader of the Boston Festival, which they have once a year to celebrate Prabhupada's arrival, because that's where he first set foot in America, in Boston. And so he was supposed to come and lead the kirtan and everything. So, and I was not really planning to go, but he had some difficulty with the Child Protection Service of ISKCON. And so they said he couldn't lead kirtan. So they contacted me and they said, would you like to come up and lead the kirtan? I said, yeah, I'll come up. So I took a 4-hour bus ride. I stayed with Brahma Muhurta Prabhu. And I said, I'm going to come tomorrow to lead the kirtan at the boat and get on the boat and have kirtan there and then lead the Harinam party back. And they called me at Brahma Muhurta's home and they said, no, you can't do that. You can't lead that kirtan. And I said, well, I'll just lead the kirtan from the boat to the temple afterwards. They said, no, you can't do that kirtan. I said, okay, I'll just come on the boat and listen to the devotees offer their glorification of Srila Prabhupada. They said, you can't do that either.
What?
I said, well, what if I just show up and come on the boat? They said, we will physically remove you.
Wow.
That's the point that they got to in the way they were dealing with me. You know, and I was only just thinking what's good for Krishna consciousness. So we have this initiation system Prabhupada had explained briefly. And then we have the book changes, which Prabhupada did not authorize. He said, Arsha Prayoga means that you honor the Acharya by not changing anything that you see in his books that you consider to be a mistake. He said, if you see a mistake, you're the mistake. Those are Prabhupada's words.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I was going through. And then I went with Brahma Muhurta to a Buddhist temple because they wouldn't let me come to the festival. Yeah. Fortunately, though, I had Jayadvaita Swami and Brahmatirtha Prabhu and Guru Garanga, a bunch of other devotees. They were acting on my behalf in the following years. And I had to really grovel to get back into the fold and be accepted by my godbrothers who were, you know, in a guru position, GBC position, temple president position. They were all coming down on me like a ton of bricks. And
it just doesn't make sense.
No, it was senseless. It was senseless. It was counterproductive. And they were just, you know, they had been poisoned. That's what it was.
Not the mood of Srila Prabhupada, who was very inclusive.
Absolutely. You know, Prabhupada had me lead kirtan many times, including in his room. There was, in the Paris temple, they had all the kids come into his room, and then Prabhupada, I was sitting near his table. He put his hand on the kartals and pushed them towards me. He said, you lead kirtan and the kids will dance. So, you know, he was very happy. He referred to me Acyutananda from Paris. So, you know, that's where I was when I got initiated. He wrote me in 1970, August of 1970 from Tokyo. I was initiated by a letter, by mail. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually had performed the fire ceremony for my initiation before he left to join Prabhupada in Los Angeles when Prabhupada was creating the GBC. He was one of the original members. And I was his secretary when I was a new devotee. And because I spoke some French, so I was helping him with a lot of the organization work that he was doing. So, you know, it's a long history of 50 years plus. A lot can happen in 50 years.
Yeah.
A lot of ups and downs. But
Rani, I'd like to hear a quote from Acyutananda Prabhu. I don't remember exactly the question he asked Srila Prabhupada, something like, will we see you in the next life? Yes? Lochananda? How did the question go?
We were on a morning walk in Geneva. Guru Garanga was there. I think the Mataji from Brazil probably knows Guru Garanga because that's where he was living. And Guru Garanga was the president of Geneva after I had been there to establish the temple. And I recommended Guru Garanga for initiation. So we had a very close connection. And so we were on a morning walk and we're going through this wooded area. And Pushta Krishna was Prabhupada's servant. He was a sannyasi. And he was asking questions. And Prabhupada was asking us questions. He said, what is that building in the forest there? And Guru Garanga said, that's a restaurant, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, what are they doing there? And Guru Garanga replied, they are eating only sin. Right out of Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada said, that is a good answer. And then Pushta Krishna asked Prabhupada, he said, when we go back to Godhead in the spiritual world, can you go from one spiritual planet to another? And Prabhupada said, yes, because there are no material laws acting there. And then Pushta Krishna asked him, Swami asked him, Prabhupada, when we return to the spiritual world, will we recognize you? And he said, yes, you will. He had at another time, we will have big ISKCON in the spiritual world. So we have that to look forward to. It's not too far off.
What about the statement that Prabhupada said, I'll put your hand in Krishna's hand?
Oh, I don't remember exactly where I heard that, but he was talking about when you attain pure Krishna consciousness and go back to Godhead, then the spiritual master makes the introduction and puts your hand in Krishna's hand. So he's the eternal spiritual master. It's not just this one lifetime, but he said we would recognize him, but he didn't say exactly in what form, but he'll be there.
So in the case of, say, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, he took initiation from Bhaktivedanta Vaibhav Puri Maharaj. Could we apply the same thing, that since Prabhupada said all my God brothers went back to Godhead, he'll be waiting for Krishna Chandra to put his hand in Krishna's hand too?
If he does it in this lifetime. Sure. His spiritual master still living?
No, he disappeared 12 years ago.
12 years ago. So he, I think he's keeping an eye on you.
I believe that, yes.
Yeah. And I think that he's giving you blessings and will continue throughout your life. I mean, Krishna has brought you to this Sangha so that you will be more blessed and become more convinced and more dedicated, more devoted, everything, and go back to Godhead. It's just an arrangement of Krishna to get you to surrender and return back home, back to Godhead. It's a setup.
Absolutely.
You've been set up.
This Sangha has been a real godsend because I'm pretty much homebound. I'm taking care of my mother, so I don't get to go out that much.
Is she interested in Krishna consciousness?
She's right there with him. She listens to every broadcast.
Mom.
His mom's
I think
name
you
is
met
Linda.
my mother when you met me. You might have met her too. Mom. Yeah. You want to say Hare Krishna to everybody?
Oh,
Hare Krishna, Linda.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
She saw Srila Prabhupada was it in Tompkins Square Park?
Was it Tompkins Square Park or Washington Square Park?
Tompkins Square Park.
Okay. Yeah, with my grandmother. My grandmother was there too.
This reminds me of Dhruva Maharaj and Suniti, his mother. That she was considered his Pata Pradakshaka Guru because she had knowledge of Krishna and instructed Dhruva. Dhruva was wondering, where can I find Krishna? And she said, the great sages say that he can be found in the forest. Vrindavan, or and so she acted as Pata Pradarshaka Guru, who's like the first person that introduces you to Krishna. And then Prabhupada said that Dhruva was so powerful that when he was leaving this world and getting into this spiritual airplane, Prabhupada called it, that he looked back and there was another spiritual airplane transporting his mother. So that's going to happen in your life too.
Joy.
I believe so. Something like that.
That would be fantastic.
In other words, your mother will go back to Godhead because she's supporting you as a devotee. She heard Prabhupada's transcendental vibration and never forgot it for an instant. So she's eligible to go back to Godhead.
She gave birth to a Vaishnav, to a devotee of Krishna.
Exactly. So if you become a pure devotee and you're moving in the right direction, I mean, look, you're reading from the pastimes of Krishna and the rasa dance. So you're definitely going in the right direction, right? So your mom will benefit from your advancement. And then by your spiritual strength, she'll be going back to Godhead, maybe before you.
Oh, thank you.
Lochananda Prabhu, I know you have a daughter you care for and you have a lot of responsibilities and it's expensive living in New York. But I really look forward if you can come back this Friday or any Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do it 3 nights a week. This is what we do. And I'm very grateful to you. I'm grateful to every devotee that comes because you are my association. I'm over an hour away from seeing any devotee. This is as good as it gets for me.
Well, I'm glad I got my camera back on. So
yeah,
we can actually see each other.
I hope this was a nice experience for you.
Oh, it was very, very satisfying to the soul because it was the transcendental vibration. When each devotee spoke, I was feeling that this is coming from the spiritual stratum. No, this is not ordinary conversation.
No,
this is what's going on in the spiritual world. This is what you mentioned, the 6 Goswamis. This is what they did. These are the things that they brought up and they discussed. And so they had their mission, we have our mission. And our mission is to continue pushing forward the Sankirtan movement. So we have to be, in order to do that, we have to be pure in heart. We can't just, it can't be something mechanical. It can't be something that we just do as whimsically. It has to be our life's work. Our dedication has to be complete. And then we represent the parampara. Just like Prabhupada, he had such complete faith in the order of his spiritual master to come to the Western world without any real invitation. I mean, when he came, the Agarwals were totally shocked that it was actually a real thing that was happening to them because they had written some guarantee so that they would look after this gentleman so he could come. They never thought he would come.
Shikarani, do you know who the Agarwals are? Can you say something for Shikarani?
Yeah, when Prabhupada arrived, there was an agent in New York. Prabhupada came off the boat and he said that he didn't know if he should turn left or right. He had no idea where to go. He had 40 rupees, which he called a couple of hours spending money in New York. He actually didn't spend that money in the United States because you couldn't exchange rupees at that point. And he took that back to India when he returned in 1967, used that 40 rupees to pay for the taxi from Delhi to Vrindavan. So that's the 40 rupees you hear about, worth $8. And so there was an agent who represented the Agarwal family. I think it was their father who was in India who set that up, right?
Yeah.
And then Prabhupada went and stayed with them in Butler, Pennsylvania. It's a funny thing that in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is a small town, and there was President Trump. He did a big rally there in Butler, Pennsylvania. 56,000 people attended. Can you imagine that? Many times more than the population of the town itself. So he was staying with the Agarwals, and one of the children of the Agarwals called Prabhupada Swami Jesus. And Prabhupada said, and a child shall lead them. And there was an article in the Eagle, which was the local newspaper, and Prabhupada had given a presentation. I can't remember, was it the Lions Club or somewhere?
Be the YMCA.
The YMCA, right? Prabhupada's idea was that, and he wrote this to Brahmananda, who was president of the New York Temple. That was the first temple of ISKCON. And he said, I think that you can set up speaking engagements for me at all of the universities, colleges, schools, companies, associations. It just went on and on and on. In other words, there's no limit to the preaching, especially in a place like New York, where they have 86 colleges and universities. Take your pick. And it's the center of so much education, and that education is not Krishna conscious education, which is the great thing that is lacking in this world. Prabhupada wrote that to me in my initiation letter. He said, the only thing lacking in this world is Krishna consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted us he said the Brahmins will come from the universities. And so he wanted us to do that kind of preaching. And he even had a plan that he talked about in Mayapur in 1977 with Bharadraj. He said we should have a diorama, a changing body diorama, and put that inside a big trailer, attach it to a van that pulls it, and the side doors open up so you can go to the universities, park there, and open up so people can see this changing body exhibit. Set up your book table, have kirtan, and just preach to those college students.
We had that Ayendra Prabhu when I first met Ayendra Prabhu in New York. He had this box van that opened up on the side, and there was the changing body exhibit on one side, karma exhibit, and he was in the middle with a harmonium, mridanga player, kartal player, decorated like a temple. And was parked right on beside the sidewalk. So as the passerbys are going by, there was a whole festival of India, like right at their fingertips.
It was amazing.
It really was.
Many devotees and engaged many devotees. And he created that when I was the temple president.
Oh.
He built that temple on wheels. And he got a lot of press coverage, and it was in Back to God magazine. It was glorified.
I asked him, why did you leave New York? You had such a fantastic program. He said, I had a hard time getting all the devotees to come out on Harinam with me. Yeah. And that was one point. And he said, because everyone comes to Vrindavan, he said, then I try to fire everyone up with Harinam when they come here. And then they go back to their temples more fired up because of the Harinam of the 24-hour kirtan. Yeah. Also, just so you know, Shikarani, I met her. I forget exactly how I met her, but she was the president of the Bhakti Yoga Society at Rochester Institute of Technology. That's where she is, in Rochester. And she invited me to come and speak there. And so I gave a few lectures, led a few kirtans. And then from there, I went down to Ithaca, New York, and I lectured at Cornell University and started making more contacts there. So I'm very grateful to Shikarani. Through her, I also did programs at the Hindu temple in Rochester and started reaching out, making more friends. That used to be Romapad Swami's area, I think, once upon a time, Buffalo, all of that. But not so many preachers come through there anymore, do they, Shikarani?
I think because of COVID, there is like a halt kind of situation.
No, but even before that, there wasn't a lot of people coming, was there?
Not many. Mostly, I feel it is more influenced by Canada now. It is more closer to Toronto. So I think devotees from Toronto are mostly managing and coming here.
When I can come across the border again, I'll be happy to come and kirtan with you. As long as I don't have to take the poisonous mRNA injection, I'll be happy to come.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Anyway, it's a little after 10 here for us, but it was a special occasion because I hope it won't be it'll always be special whenever Acyutananda Prabhu can come. but I hope it won't. I hope this won't be the last time we'll see him.
I'm sure it won't.
Yeah. If you can come this Friday, that would be great. We'll just continue from where we left off on the Rasa Leela pastime. And we'll get into the Dhammadarastika, but we'll chant Dhammadarastika every time until I think it's November 19th or something like that. That's the Kartik month. So a very auspicious beginning. I'm so grateful with all of you. Yeah.
Very auspicious. And all the devotees who are attending this program, this is the path back to Godhead. Be rest assured and be determined to continue, because the association of devotee like Gaur Prabhu, a great pioneer in our movement, is more valuable than any amount of gold or any amount of silver or any precious metals or any amount of Lakshmi. It's the most valuable thing in this world. Take advantage.
Thank you for being a goldsmith and sharing some of that gold with us tonight. Please accept my respectful obeisances, everyone. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitananga Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nithai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.
There's another thing in the book, how to raise your hands when you're dancing in kirtan.
Yeah.
That's in the book.
That's the Swami step.
That's the Swami step.
That's how Prabhupada showed.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Keep us in touch with when that book is out, okay? And send me a PDF of it if you can. Yeah.
I will. Okay. I'll do that.
Thank you. Good night. See you soon, everyone. Krishna willing, I hope to see you in 2 days.
Okay.